Wow, I think personally I feel trigonometry and Indus Valley civilization through technology. I think all of us, this is an epic example for technology being a boon, really. I'm excited, and I'm surely not going to stop my kids, Mr. Srinivasan, from, working around on tabs anymore, or maybe a little less. With that, thank you, Mr. Karthik Sane. This brings us to our next section. And before I introduce the eminent speaker, there are a few lines which I would want to share with each one of you. And it's quintessential that we listen to this and stop our relationship with the phones that I see most of us are having here. I hope you guys got the joke, though. Okay, so India has been building a set of digital building blocks, from identity to payments to credentialing to data across domains over the last decade. This loosely coupled, interoperable, federated set of digital building blocks, generally known as India Stack, has allowed India to leap forth in the areas of social welfare and financial inclusion. Most of these are in the form of protocols and open APIs, allowing the market, society, and the government sectors to build diverse innovations in the form of apps and platforms. In talk with none other than Dr. Pramod Varma, we will learn how India is now extending these design principles to further build additional building blocks in education, health, and other domains to make non-linear transformation at a billion people scale. Please put your hands together to welcome Dr. Pramod Varma, Chief Architect, Aadhaar and India Stack, Government of India. A very warm welcome, Dr. Pramod Varma.
Thank you so much. Good morning, everyone. Am I the first one to talk, or thankfully we had the wonderful talk before that? So it's a pleasure to be here, and in the speaker lounge, we were saying, oh, you are building all these wonderful things, Aadhaar and UPI, and we're going to talk about a bunch of things. Most of you probably know. Most of you live in India, I suppose, right? Okay, that's good. All right, that makes it easier for me to tell the story. But one of the things I was telling most of the people in that room is that it's never built by few people. The whole system is transforming because it's built by many of you, actually innovators. And I have lots of friends in the room right now who are actually building on top of the infrastructure that India has built. You can hear me, actually. It's not changing, right? Yeah. So it's a pleasure to be here, and I hope I'm going to give you a bird's eye view of what India has been doing. It's actually very difficult sometimes to comprehend the kind of things that we have done in the last decade or 12 years or so, after the telecom revolution, of course, right? So I'll walk you through a few slides. I think I'm going to go fast. I'm going to fast like sort of boom, 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 So if you want to note down things, I'm not sure if there's a Q&A. Is there a Q&A at the end? No. Okay. So you don't get to ask questions to me. That makes it easier. Okay. So absorb it. And a lot of these are slightly abstract concepts to absorb. But I suppose a lot of you are architects and entrepreneurs who are building. So it should be fairly easy for you. Many, many things compressed into a set of slides. Okay. So sorry about that. So if I rush through you. This is for the people who don't understand India. If you have not understood India, we are really awesome. Awesome, wild, diverse, reasonably messy democracy, high entropy, everything, nothing works, right? So we are purposely in this entropy mode. But the beauty of that is that no single solution can actually reach 1.4 billion people. And you heard the session right before. 200 million people around the world have accessibility issues. And India is a big portion of that. But people don't build. Most of you probably, entrepreneurs, build for the standard persona that you all come across. And that keeps a lot of them out accessibility issues out. And we had to really work through the UPI apps to get them phone pays of the world to say, that damn thing doesn't read back. If I put on the screen reader, it just messes up. They need to be able to make payments. So we have had a bunch of volunteers, for example, from accessibility pushing the entrepreneurs. But it's still difficult. It's difficult to get through the diversity. Bangalore alone, by the way, I'm from Bangalore. Bangalore alone supposedly speaks 109 languages active. That's crazy. That's awesome, crazy stuff. How many languages of people are daily using it? And that also means your apps probably not reaching most of them. And that's like, because you're probably doing English speaking, the same people like you, same crowd, right? That's what's happening. But we are also highly connected. So I think what really did with the internet time, the early internet, is the mobile phone revolution. We have a billion phone connections, or billion plus phone connections. And now with Geo effect, I think we are the cheapest data plans in the world. We have smartphones. So we are very young country, but aspirational, absolutely waiting for all of you to innovate for them. And I think that's a mindset. But may not be the kind of traditional revenue models that you see. So the Indian entrepreneurs struggle with that when you try to imitate the Western startup model here. The payment structures are very different. People don't pay that easily. And so how do you monetize is a very, very hard problem. Recently, Nitin Kamath, Zerodha guy said, even after what we have done, I can't get through beyond the 100 million, right? 100 million is only 10% of the adult population. We have 930 million adults. So billion adults, right? So 10%, that's 90% can't get through. I mean, that's what his point was. But yesterday, someone else sort of, brought out another point, saying that no, it can actually go to 300, 400 million if only you put your mind to it, to design it. So we'll see what is going to happen. But this was the situation in 2008. I want you to be very aware. In 2008 to 2009, when we had smartphones, iPhone was launched, Android was out there, phone connections, internet connection coming through. Indians still couldn't get access to bank accounts. But almost all of you and your parents probably had bank accounts. So you can imagine how privileged you guys were, right? In the sense that you probably had bank accounts in the house and you wouldn't even blink. 20%. That was horrendously bad, and we were in the perpetual holy grail of looking for getting to 80%. 80% is sort of the sustenance number, right? At the same time, in 2009, when Aadhaar project was started, we were actually delivering $50 billion as direct subsidy to people. Who? We don't know, because we didn't know. Nobody had an identity, but we had some mechanism to. So it was an indirect way of supply chain through which the money transferred to the people. And once Rajiv Gandhi said only 8% of that money really reaches the poor, but I think post-90s and by 2010, I think they said 30-40% eventually reaches. But still, more than half, $25 billion, somebody was pocketing. I mean, money was going down. This was 2.8, 2.5% of the GDP spent on direct subsidy. So that was really bad, right? And then this perpetual quest for, this is Nitin's comment, that no products and services in this country penetrates beyond the top 10. Top 10 is a luxury. We had 22 million credit cards. We had all the EdTech paying customers put together, they have 18 or 14 million. So we are really looking at a small number of people like us who had access to pretty much the top 8% or 7% of the country who had access to this. But none of the products would reach. That would mean most people would go and actually do savings on the informal savings progress schemes, even if you're a maid or drivers. And you would do the same thing with lending, right? Local money lenders who would lend money to them because no formal system would want them. And one of the examples, this is a very, very interesting example. Look at SEBI, our capital market regulator, one of the very well regulated, nationally regulated, unlike in the US and all. Here we have a single regulator for the capital market. Very well regulated mutual fund, had absolutely capped number of people who would access to mutual fund was about 22 million people. 2.2 crore, 22 million people. And it was there for a long time at 22 million. And they were saying, why can't we go to 22 million? Out of 900 million, of course, 900 million people can't save money, they don't have money. But maybe 200, 300 million people should be able to save some money. But they don't in the system. And when we analyze, is an example of the kind of things we ignore. The mutual fund distributors today get 50 bips, 0.5% of the commission. And if the KYC cost of SEBI, simple paper, forget calling you, sir, do you want mutual fund and all that cost is separate, okay? Simply doing paperwork was 1,500 rupees, about $20, US dollars. That actually means if I get 50%, 0.5% of the commission, and I have to spend 1,500 rupees to acquire you more, you need to write me a check of 3,000 rupees, minimum, 3 lakh rupees, which is whatever, $4,000. And if you don't write it, you're not a viable customer for me. So no distributor would go after anyone other than the same 22 million people who can write this check. So it's very, very important to understand the fundamentals of, if to do business, cost of acquisition, customer acquisition, cost of doing business, compliance, cost of engagement, and we added one more, cost of trust has to be reduced. All these three costs has to be reduced so much so that your businesses now can go after the next 100 million people or 200 million people. Fundamentally. And that is not to be done by, cost cannot be merely done by entrepreneurs like you. This is where the regulator and the government was starting to step up and to say, if we can build national digital infrastructure to remove paperwork and the friction of much of things, we could potentially dramatically reduce the cost of business, cost of engagement, cost of acquisition, and eventually cost of trust. In the lending example, we look at lending, right? India's GDP to lending ratio is pathetic. No, we don't lend. I was speaking to someone 2 days ago in Jaipur, a businessman. He's saying, banks do not give me any loan. Absolutely. I've been in Jaipur for 20 years doing business. I cannot get a loan from the bank. Because my business is going ups and down. And that is a risk. And the risk is, I'm not a viable customer. As simple as that. Banks have money, by the way. Finance ministry has been pushing, right, to banks to actually lend. That's because the cost of trust is very high. And I'll tell you how we are systematically changing some of this game. But I just want to fast forward to today. From 2009 to today. Today, last year, India disbursed $70 billion US directly to the bank account of the people, with no middleman. Less than 10 years, from completely no bank account to everything being there, in completely transform this. And this is the reason why we have 650 million people who can receive money instantly today in India. Instant. All of us could receive because we had salary accounts, we had NEFT, and we had all that access to that. But now, 650 million unique adults in the country. They're not 600 million accounts. There are 650 million unique people who can actually receive money out of 900 million adults, right? Now this is going up and up again and again. The last long tail is hard. Long tail is always hard. Okay, that's always going to be there. And this is why when COVID hit, in the first lockdown, we transferred $400 million directly to people's account during lockdown. And if any one of you were in the US at that time, and you live in the US, you were getting a check, sort of printed check in the mail. Okay, so the amount of transformation we have done is creating resilient for things that we don't know what's going to happen. It's become a fundamental right to have my identity. Most people are not identifiable in the system. Most people don't have a bank account. It's becoming now more good to have. It's a must-have for a country, right? And that's what happened. This is an amazing study that if you have not done, this is from Bureau of International Settlements in Basel, BIS, Central Bank of Central Banks. They put out a 2020 December report saying that if in India did usual things that we normally do, account open karo, keep whipping the banks, go open bank account, do something, our usual stuff, what we do. If we do that, we would have taken, because we were continued to grow a democracy, right? We were not going down the drain. So because of that, it takes 46 years. According to them, they modeled it, and they said India would have taken 46 years to reach 80% of the bank accounts. You know how long India took? Flat 6 years. India took exactly 6 years to get from sub 20%. And this is they were blown away. They said, how can completely an exponential shift like this can happen from a sub 10 to 20% to 80? Now we are 90%, long tail continues, but 90% bank accounts. Almost everyone has a bank account, including urban poor. Many urban poor didn't have bank accounts, even though they lived in the cities. Now everyone has. And that is a fundamental reason why we are making what's called a non-linear shifts in the system. And this comes basically from not trying to solve a particular problem. And a lot of you are architects, a lot of you are entrepreneurs. While you are trying to solve government, and a lot of us who are building public infrastructure, digital infrastructure, we're asking the question, we shouldn't be solving, trying to open the bank account for the people. What can we do? Few Lego blocks. Can we build few underlying API-driven, interoperable building blocks that allow you and Nitins and Vijay Jagat Sharmas and everybody of the world and SBI and HDFC and everyone of the world to combine these blocks in a way that we could otherwise can't imagine. So the moment you think you know the solution, you are wrong. So that's the assumption we made. We don't know the solution is the assumption we are making. If you don't know the solution, what will we build today that allows us to rebuild and reshape our solutions in 2018 and 2020 and 2025 and 2030? Because we don't know what's in future for us. And if you think we know exactly what the solution is going to be, you're probably wrong. And as entrepreneurs, you also know. You believe that solution is right, and then you hit the market, you realize, no, I just got it all wrong. So our ability to allow that combinatorial innovation by what we call Samaj, Sarkar and Bazaar, everyone, in a cost-effective, cheap manner, a really efficient, cost-effective manner, is the reason why we are seeing this non-linear change. It's not because we solved something. We did not solve. We simply built building blocks. And that started from identity. Identity was the digital identity. We had 40% of India didn't have birth records. We had no records. And they had local identity. So if you are in a village, you sort of know, son of that, daughter of this person, sort of somehow managed it in an earlier society. But as more and more systems started coming in, government systems, banking system, they wouldn't say, oh, son of that, somehow I'll manage. They need formalized, recognizable identity. And that was also very local identities, like ration card written in Hindi, for example. And they wouldn't cut because we had half the country was migrating inside the country. And when they move, they become no one in the new city. No one. They don't get access to food. They don't open bank account. They have no idea how to manage money. And when the policeman catches in the night, they get beaten. Because I have no proof to claim my identity. So that's the reason we started. And the power of Aadhaar, we went from literally, today we cover 1.34 billion people in Aadhaar. 1.34 billion people have Aadhaar identities, and we still have a long tail. I know, always have a long tail, right? That's happening. And today, the real good number, metric, is not how many people have Aadhaar. How many people use Aadhaar every month? Today, Indians do 1.2 to 1.4 billion Aadhaar digital authentication. Not showing paper at the airport. That we don't come to know, because that is completely offline identity management. Online identity verification. We do 1.2 to 1.4 billion authentication every month. That's very satisfying. That tells you that a large section of India is leveraging the identity to access their banking. For example, microfinance or banking systems and so on. They are actually doing. None of you probably using other than when income tax OTP comes, right? That's the only probably time all of you are using Aadhaar. But other than that, you don't need it because you are all privileged, okay? And this is what happened. Aadhaar was the only system, even today, by the way, even today, the only digital identity system in the world that only has 4 attributes. Almost every digital identity system has 10, 50 attributes about you. Aadhaar was so simple because our assumption again was that for a scale of India, 600,000 villages, 1.5 million people enrolling every day, we had to keep the system so simple. But simplicity also helps in privacy argument. So really, when the Supreme Court privacy argument hit, it really stood the test of time for us because we only captured 4 attributes. And only thing we do is yes or no answer under KYC. And we don't know anything about you, location, purpose, why you are using Aadhaar. UIDI captures nothing. And that was a beautifully simple design that allowed us to scale. And I won't talk about it. It's literally 2 APIs. So as technology architects, people ask, is it complex? I said, maybe 2 answers. System is not complex at all. System is extremely simple. But the scale was enormous. We do 100,000, whatever, 100 trillion biometric matches every day on our compute grid. So it's a very, very complex system in that computationally complex, but functionally very simple. Okay, that's what. And we went from 0 Aadhaar numbers in 2010. In 2014, when the election happened, we were 600 million people, an irreversible number. 600 million in 3.5 years. And that was, again, the simplicity of the design. Absolutely simple design. And we procured nothing. We had 200 people. In the tech team, we had 5 people with 20 people, extra people. That's about it. That's all the system was. It's so simple that we could scale. Anything more complex, we couldn't have scaled. And then we built payments. We looked at Aadhaar payment, UPI. Of course, if some of you are not using UPI, I have no idea why. Probably you should be using. Maybe you are living under the rock or something. But UPI, again, we started the work around 2013, thinking about UPI. 2014, we started writing the protocol, UPI protocol, interoperable payment protocol. 2015, we did the pilot, and 2016, we launched. So it took 3 years to launch UPI. And then demonetization happened, and then, of course, there was COVID happened. So all the things that pushed digital. Now, last month, we did 6.3 billion transactions on UPI, right? And UPI is not one app. It's not one system. UPI is not even a platform. UPI is a network. And it's like internet. Internet connected by HTTP, and UPI network is connected by UPI protocol. Okay, all it does is that protocol. It's about half a page protocol. That's very simple. And Aadhaar payment is also on the UPI interface. You didn't know. I'm very sure you didn't know. People actually make Aadhaar payments using their fingerprint. That's about 300 million transactions. 200 million transactions to 300 million transactions every month. People using payments, sending money to their wives in the village and so on using their fingerprint. And now again, this was a huge thing that changed the way migrants send money back home, right? And of course, we again designed for diversity. Think about it. And I love the first session because of that. I just literally walked in and taking advantage of the first session. Is that the idea of UPI? UPI is not designed only for smartphone. UPI protocol is agnostic to devices. It's agnostic to network. It's even agnostic to authentication. It doesn't have to be PIN. You will see soon, you see UPI on face authentication, by the way. Very soon. And so UPI was designed to be at such a low-level protocol, we could keep building one by one. And we have feature phone users, we have UPI 123, which is for feature phone, USSD is feature phone, it's all UPI. And then fingerprint, no phone people using fingerprints to actually make payments. It's amazing how much we are doing, right? And I'll skip that. And then, of course, last year, we overtook China plus UK plus US on real-time payments. We just blew past them in literally 1 year. This year, we are going to be some 5x, 10x, then all countries combined, real-time payments. Because China is the only really big one, addressing real-time payments. Others are all really small. And people in the US say, we have Zelle. I just really roll their eyes, okay? I roll my eyes. I don't want to roll my eyes here in public, but it's like 2009 IMPS, okay? That's barely there. So I think Google has suggested Feds now to actually adopt UPI. And UPI is going international. UPI will be live in Singapore, Dubai, France soon, and 25 other countries they're talking. It's both for Indian travelers going there can use your QR-coded payment or remittances. It's huge. Indians send money back, which is a good thing. You should keep sending money back. And we are going to use UPI for everything because the real-time payment, extremely cheap. I was talking to a W3C payments group, and they said, what's the cost of UPI? Cost of UPI is 1/700th of a dollar for transferring money in India. It's so cheap that it's become, flow of money. Just to move money, it's extremely cheap for us. Okay, that's why it's allowing, because it became made public goods, right? We made public rails, open system, not closed systems. That allowed that change to happen. And then we opened up data. And this is something which no one in the world is even trying to do. GDPR gives you legal support to access your data. We are creating a data network, a decentralized data access network, so that you, not only you, or everyone in India, including, whether you're a driver or Uber driver or a SME who on the roadside, can access and harness their data. Why is it important to harness data? Is because today, most of our access to products and services, I told you most of the access to products and services is not happening because of the cost of acquisition, cost of processing, and cost of trust. Data, machine readable, digitally signed certificates, my credentials, my degree certificates, whether my licenses, trade licenses and so on, and my flow of data, my bill payment, GST data, coming to me in digitally signed machine readable means people like you can now build next generation underwriting algorithms or processing algorithms that doesn't need human being to flip through printed pages. Suddenly the cost of trust dramatically comes down and cost of processing dramatically comes down. Now what do you do with it is left to you, right? You have to figure out reimagine the possibility of what would happen 1 billion people have harnessing their digital footprints. What would you change for them? I don't know. You have to think about it. So that's a beautiful thing. And we just started with account aggregator. You saw that account aggregator? We launched account aggregator. It's the world's first data network, personal data network for financial institution. So SEBI, IRDA, PFRDA, of course RBI leading it, and now GSTN joining, and BBPS and so on going to join through account aggregator, that everyone will have. Now that SME on the roadside, with a single click of a button, can get entire data in a digitally signed manner so that I can get low cost, low tenure loans and lending options from NBFCs and banks and so on. Okay? And that is changing. We don't know. This is the UPI moment that is starting to happen in data. No one even knows what to imagine. We actually don't know, genuinely. Now, France, for example, wants to process EU Schengen visa through our data empowerment. They're saying today we print out, many of you travel, right? We print out our banks and put a seal in every page and go give it to that agent who is processing God knows what that agent is keeping our financial data, where is it going? France is very, very keen to make it completely a one-click, end-to-end encrypted data package to the consulate. so that visa processing can happen faster for Indians. We don't know what else is going to happen. Maybe admissions, maybe global trade, everything can change. Think about it. So possibilities are absolutely endless. We talked about account aggregator, but we are not stopping. And this is the crazy part of India. Once we drink the Kool-Aid, I think we know the power of the system, that our regulators, government, and market players are open to the idea that if you build digital infrastructure, it can dramatically change the possibility, expand the pie. And instead of going after the same 50 million people again and again and again, trying to sell them more, we could double it, triple it, 5x, 10x eventually to 400, 500 million people. Beyond that, it gets very hard anyway, right? It gets very hard. But over the years, they will also join the formalization. That's what will happen. We are building health stack. So people, I know some of you are working in the health stack. It's very, very powerful. I don't want to talk about it. We are building digital education stack called India. So if you are in the edtech, innovation space, education space, look at India. We just launched, along with India, we launched Indic language mission called Bhashini. We are tracking that. Please track it. Some of my friends here are actually tracking it. And there, because Indic language, we are opening up complete open data sets and AI models for speech, translation, and transcription, transliteration, and so on, for all Indian languages and beyond. Okay, even for formal languages, as a public good, so that you can think about possibly giving speech interfaces and other interfaces to people, right? And then we are, of course, building some of the lending infrastructure called OCEN and so on. And the last one, you have been hearing about it, ONDC, and that is something which no one in the world is even attempting to do. They're not even imagining that possibility. I think we are probably a little bit crazy. I think that's what's happening here. But we are studying this system very carefully. We are saying it's not about taking on Amazon or Uber or Swiggy or Flipkart. All of them still, Uber, for example, does 3% of India's urban transportation, barely. Delhi Metro alone does more transactions than Uber across India every day. So Indian mobility space, urban mobility space is untouched, fragmented. Look at skilling, jobs. People go in trucks to roadside to pick up informal jobs every day, right? There's these meeting points where people can say, are you a maestri, are you a carpenter, come over with us. That's inhumane. We shouldn't be doing that. We should be providing a unified infrastructure that allow many of you to create my gates of the world, for example. All the apps people are building, Better Place, My Gate, there are many startups like that who are trying to bring security guards, maids, and so on. But their ability to solve that countrywide is impossible for a scale. So we are building next generation networks, what we call unified networks. Like what you did UPI, we are going to actually build for commerce and digital, what's called a equitable market opportunity or economic opportunity, opening up economic opportunity. And that first one we are launching is Open Network for Digital Commerce, ONDC. ONDC is an absolutely audacious approach to actually unbundle the supply chain and rebundle through our open protocol. It's sort of wild when I say that. I don't even know what it means. I roughly know what it means to me, but I'm not sure you're grasping it. It's basically the idea of UPI taken to supply chain, saying that if I have a seller platform or a point of sale, like a Pine Labs or one of those, they don't need to worry about how to sell it to the end consumer. All they have to do is to connect to the ONDC grid. On the other side, we might have Google Map or a Paytm or a PhonePe or any of these super app guys. Some of you probably are super app guys. Super app, they could easily say, oh, I don't need to worry about acquiring and creating a pipe model all the way. All I need to do is to connect to the grid. And when I connect to the grid, discovery and fulfillment across that network becomes trustworthy, and the pilots have started, and this is based on what's called a backend protocol. And backend protocol is an open source effort. 1,000+ developers are actually on the Discord and discussing and so on. This is a very, very powerful protocol that allows skilling networks health, telemedicine and health network. We are launching UHI, Unified Health Interface. That is just coming along. Health guys will know it, and so on. So this is a powerful way to create an infrastructure that levels the playing ground and provides equitable and respectful way to, if I'm a gig worker, if I'm a plumber, if I'm an artisan, I now don't need to depend on a large middleman. The information asymmetry and discovery asymmetry is being reduced. So intent. Now 3 years later, we might be a super flop, okay? But attempting is necessary. We must attempt to try make this happen. Because if we don't, we will leave the large section of India in informal, fragmented environments. And that's not correct. That's not right at all. And India is moving, that's how we were, right? In 70s and 80s, you know, one BSNL, one Air India, one, you know how we were, and nobody wants to go back. And US, on the other hand, outsourced everything to big tech. And that's why there's a huge lashback against the big techs. In Europe, you can see they're bringing laws after laws. And the last one, Tim Cook literally traveled to Europe, because Europe is coming out with Interoperability Act for instant messages, saying that no more walled gardens, WhatsApp and Signal and iMessage should all interoperate. And people are freaking out. Those are all US companies, right? So they're all freaking out and saying, what are you doing? Right? What are you trying to do? He said, if I can send email from Gmail to Yahoo and Outlook or Exchange server, why can't I send message? So he was asking a very fundamental question. But their approach is through legal measures, though. And India is taking a techno-legal approach. That's the difference. And we are in the middle. We are creating a set of interoperable building blocks, digitally building blocks in the middle that allows many of you to imagine the possibilities and reimagine the possibilities of solving the hard problem of India. Real hard problem. Very, very hard and complex problem, multi-dimensional problems of India. And that because we have regulators and government which is extremely friendly, the policymakers. In the last 10 years, we laid a set of digital infrastructure. We continue to lay new infrastructure, but a very vibrant market players. All of you startups. It's amazing how serendipitously India is in the right place, all coming together beautifully for us. At the same time, we are political and every other mess, but nevertheless, as Indians, we feel very, very good that we are in a very, very good situation to be in very vibrant local domestic economy, aspirational young Indians, now bringing to the formal fold, and now we can, with all this infrastructure, possibly target the next 100 million, 200 million user base to provide health and savings and so on, right? And hence formalizing the entire large society. And that formalization is absolutely essential. So as you can do many things. So 4 things. I always ask the technology guys I always recruit people, okay? I'm here to recruit people. I'm going to recruit people. Okay, so first one, if you are investor business, build for India. Invest and build for India. There is no better time than doing this. I'm not promising money. It's very, very hard. And entrepreneurship is hard. You guys know it. You are there. Nothing comes free. But absolutely essential that we must attempt. And second, if you are architects, do study the way these are architected. It is very relevant in the private industry. When you are building population scale, large scale systems, apply the same principles. It doesn't have to be free and government. Even those principles matter to you. Okay, so study them. And if you are into global, and at least 5 or 6 large global entities, non-Indian global entities, want to take this global. Many of this. Because much of this, forget identity. Identity may not be that much of a developing nation problem. But payment is. Commerce, even more sure. It is. And most of the European companies even have thrown out Uber and so on, right? So they're all looking for an opportunity. LATAM countries, many of them, Brazil, for example, is conversation right now. Africa, Gambia is right now conversing with us, saying that how can we use this to create Gambia as a tourism place. They want to create a tourism network, open network, rather than handing it over to Airbnb and saying, please solve my problem in the country, right? It's not going to happen because of the diversity and needs of the contextualized needs. And the last one, please don't join the open source effort. And if you are not joining, it's very, very bad. Okay, you should join. You should join the open source effort. The people worry, what can I contribute? It's such a beauty of open source contribution. Even one line of documentation fix is considered a contribution. You found a mistake, you can correct. Small step at a time. Please contribute, and please jump in, even if it means few minutes a week. Okay? And if all of you participate, we will have a very powerful way of building together, co-create the future for India. Thank you so much.
What an absolute joy it was to listen to you, Dr. Varma. I'm sure I'm not alone when I say this, that we are in awe with you, not just with your insightful presentation, but with the unprecedented contributions you and your teams have made in the social welfare and financial inclusion landscape. Thank you so much. Dr. Varma would like to invite some questions, if there are any. We have folks with mic.
Okay. Oh, that I didn't realize the question. Because
Sorry, Dr. Varma.
Yes, we have one question, I think. Is there a question, sir? I know okay, here we go.
I'll get the mic to you.
There is no such thing as, I always tell people, okay, there's no such thing as bad question. There's always bad answers. Okay, I might give you a bad answer, but there's nothing called a question. Please ask.
Hello. Hi, Pramod, sir. Amazing presentation.
Where are you?
Hey, I'm here near the gate.
Okay. Oh, wow. Okay, there you go.
Hi.
Okay.
Great presentation, and thank you for the amazing work. What I'm looking for is, given that we are doing so superbly when it comes to UPI payments and everything, what are we doing to help out the other developing nations, sell this as a solution, and make them lead? For example, in the recent...
I think the question is very clear. Thank you so much for asking. That's an excellent question. India is definitely very, leadership is extremely, EA, PMO's office, MATI, they're all very keen to use digital diplomacy as a means to create better relationship with similar nations across the world. And India's one thing is very clear. The top leadership wants these infrastructures to be offered free as a public good. So India is not looking at getting a few million here there for just the UPI spec. So UPI is offered, by the way, NPCI offers UPI to central banks across the world as a public good. But of course, unlike yoga, we are actually telling, no, there is an attribution. You have to use the license. You can't just rename it and sell it back to us 2 years later. Okay? So we are obviously making sure that Indians do get the due credit of being the contributor of much of this work. But it is offered as a public good. But what happened when GSM came to India? A set of companies and products came to India. So quite like that, if UPI goes to France, UPI goes to Middle East, or another country, or Mexico, or any other country, many of the companies will instantly can go global, startups. So you, as entrepreneurs, building on top of India stack, will have an easier way to go and actually say, oh, now that UPI is working there, my merchant acquisition, my merchant UPI models, a lot of them can be tried out. If the health stack is working, health and wellness solutions can actually work there as well. So it's people will, like you, could make money. Government is offering this as a public. So hopefully we have a lot of conversation. Hopefully something will good happen. It takes a lot of time. Identity is now becoming a common thing. Everybody, Indonesia is building, Mexico is building, Togo, Morocco, many countries are imitating Aadhaar's identity model all over the place, but others are coming. So thank you for asking that question.
Hello, Dr. Pramod. Dr. Varma.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so thank you for this inspiring presentation. My question is in line to the previous question, that when we go to these countries, and many of these countries, you say 25 countries, we are still in discussions, and I'm sure those countries will be also developing nations. Now, for those nations to reach to an UPI level, we had a prerequisite of having an infrastructure of identity network and other infrastructural network, right? So will that be a prerequisite for those countries also? And if that, then do you consider that as a deterrent for them to adopt UPI?
Again, very good question. So the first point, before I go to that specific answer, when I was answering him, quite like what Indians do, a lot of us do, when we see a pothole or when you see a lot, garbage thrown around, we say, why is government not cleaning, right? We don't think of we could clean or some of the community could clean. We don't think like that. We outsource it to government. My request to you, especially NASCOM and senior folks sitting here, many of you sitting here, most of you are dealing with global, players. You, knowing that all these are public goods, you could be in front of that conversation with many countries. If Google can have that conversation with feds about UPI, why couldn't you? Right? So I'm expecting many of you to actually have, if you're in front of a customer, if you're a consulting company, if you're in front of a large customer, pitch it. What's the big deal? Anyway, it's a public good. The question is, can they derive value? If they can derive value, they will be attracted to it, and we could do it. And your question is about what is the requirement, for example, UPI. UPI by design do not depend on Aadhaar. UPI is all loosely coupled systems. UPI expects some stored value account, mobile wallet, mobile money, bank account, or any stored value. So it doesn't have to be a formal banking system, and number one. It doesn't need a formal identity to actually do. Any bank authenticable identity, as long as the banking or wallet companies are there, you could actually, UPI is only the rail between them. UPI is a rail that moves money instantly, right? So it's quite easy. Internet connectivity, UPI works offline now. UPI Lite is coming. UPI offline is coming. So Indian regulator has said, I think 500 rupees or something. So you can buy samosas in train, for example, a moving train with no connectivity. You can actually pay through UPI. It's going to come very soon. Okay. So UPI can support feature phones, no phones, like biometric authentication or any type of authentication. UPI is not bound to smartphone and PIN. So the underlying UPI is very, very powerful to reimagine the actual flow of apps differently than what India is there. But Indians, because we were connected, we took advantage of it shamelessly, that's all. Okay. Yeah.
Hello, Dr. Pramod, am I audible?
Okay.
Over here at the back.
Okay.
Okay, there you go, yeah.
Thank you so much. First of all, thank you for the
Go
excellent...
a little louder, okay? Yeah. Go close. Yeah.
Okay. First of all, thank you for the excellent presentation. It does seem like that India is at an inflection point by listening to you. My question is about ONDC. Are we considering any public-private partnership? And if so, how is it helping us to expedite the journey of ONDC?
How is it helping?
To expedite the journey of ONDC.
Oh, expedite the journey of ONDC. ONDC, by the way, public-private partnership, the entire idea of digital infrastructure is about private-public partnership. Government is not building apps other than some government portals or government apps. There was a BEAM app, for example, with NPCI built, because as a reference app to start. No, otherwise what would Prime Minister launch? They can't use a private app, no. So we need something to launch. So, but again, sometimes market players may not go to a place where extreme rural environment, they may not go. There may not be a business incentive. So government will always innovate on top of the rail. But if they are the only person innovating on top of that, we could have as well lived to be BSNL. Right? Obviously. So that's not the case. So we always looking for private innovation on public rails. So that's point number one. And point number two is that in ONDC is a very peculiar unregulated, quasi-regulated commerce industry where the entire buyer platform, seller platform and logistics transportation industry is private. So ONDC is not talking to actually any government for that matter. It's actually talking to, all private players who are building various types of either a seller side or a provider side platform or building consumer side apps or logistic players like Dunzos, Shadowfax, all these guys, right? So they're all coming together, including India Post and so on. So anybody who can move goods, they're all joining the network. So pretty much everything is private. So if you're a commerce innovator, e-commerce innovator in hospitality, agriculture, taxi and urban mobility, or Kirana commerce, any of the retail commerce, you could be joining ONDC. ONDC is equivalent to 2015 UPI. So have patience. Lot of us have so much patience that I'm telling you the only thing I learned in the last 10 years to have patience. Okay, because none of the digital infrastructure will be done overnight. Rome is not built in a day. Okay, it takes a decade before anything can happen. The joint secretary will move, elections will come. So all that stuff is going on in India. Even then, we are able to make the progress because we collectively believe that there is a bigger play unleashing in this country, digital inclusion that's happening. So we believe in it. ONDC is in the early stages. ONDC is a baby doing pilots right now. Unfortunately, ONDC got too much media attention. So otherwise, we would have kept quiet for another couple of years before pilots are over. But it'll grow. So do join. So if you are a very hungry, young, like PhonePe, Samir and Rahul literally had nothing else to do. So they joined UPI, right? Because they exited Flipkart and they wanted to do a payment company. So we sort of conned them to say, do UPI. They say, what's UPI? We'll explain to you, right? So, but existing company like Paytm took some time before they could make up their mind. HDFC took a much longer time to make up their mind to join UPI. So you will see this, innovators, different sets of innovators who are early movers to late movers. So whoever you are, please join whenever you can. Okay? Yeah. Then maybe the last question. No, done. You're done.
I think I'll ask the participants to retain their questions for the evening. Dr. Varma will be with us. All right, one more question. Please go ahead.
I have too many meetings. Sorry about that. But I'm on Twitter. You can actually ask me. Yeah.
Yeah. Dr. Pramod, it was...
last one, right?
Yes, please.
Oh, okay. Myself, Karthik. I'm from Green Design Technologies, Bangalore. My question is, I have been a UPI payment. I'm using apps to pay for my daily needs. What I'm currently sensing is I lost the value of money I'm spending. At least in my mind, right? with my friends also, when I discuss with them, they're spending more. Of course, it's good for GDP, but I'm saying I am spending more. Whereas when I was using cash, I know I'm spending 500 rupees. And there was some instinct for me, always says that you're spending more, right? But I lost it now. Probably, I don't know whether everybody else feel it, but that's how I see it. But still, I'm continuing to use it, but I don't know whether I'm saving money or not.
Okay, good question. So a lot of Indians are extremely frugal, and Indians are extremely, we mind every penny. This is a good thing. I think it's, you have to be careful. We can't blow up money, for sure. And people struggle to save and so on. So they do compare the cost of cash versus cost of digital. UPI, anyway, currently is, even finance ministry, you saw the RBI notification saying that, or at least a discussion paper, saying that we could enable some sort of monetization for the UPI payment. Not only UPI, all digital payments. They have a discussion paper. And the finance ministry immediately tweeting saying that UPI is going to be free. So there's a little bit of that friction going on. I think even if UPI is charged, our gut feel is this. Cost is not about absolute value. It's about time. Cost. Today, in fact, that Jaipur businessman was telling me, the amount of time people used to come to Jaipur from smaller towns because they think absolute value, humko 1,000 rupees mein milega Jaipur. Okay, something I'll get it for 1,000 rupees. But if I sit in my town, that guy will deliver 1,500, 200 rupees. So if I come to the main market, I'll get 1,000. But he's saying all that is changing. People are starting to feel the pinch of value of time. He's saying, I would rather pay that 200 rupees extra because the whole day, I have to shut my shop or do something else. I could as well make. So I think people are starting to see convenience and cost of time, what's called affordance. Not affordability around, affordance. That means, can I take the whole day off just to get cash and save that extra? It's like going for 5 rupee discount to 50 kilometers from Bangalore, right? The cost of gas, sometimes we don't calculate. Cost of traffic, we don't calculate. So I think it's eventually people will realize that eventually it's about convenience, it's about affordance, it's about, but if cash continues to be so convenient and so easy, it will continue to be used. Nothing wrong, frankly speaking. According to me, it's not about killing cash. It's about killing cash might have digital resilience issues in the country. If something goes down, the entire internet down and nobody can trade. So I think it's about coexistence. People will find value. Okay? So I like the way you are using UPI.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Varma. Can I please retain you on the stage for one more minute, please? Okay. May I now invite Ms. Vidya Srinivasan from GenPact to felicitate Dr. Varma.